Yeah, there. Anders.
I just let know that when it comes to the thing about the meeting, I'm going to ask which committee we as a commission want to sit on. So he knows that.
Okay, I'm glad he's here. I think we are off mute. Yeah, we're good.
So just at the top.
Well, I think it's on the agenda.
The agenda.
Yep. But I want him to know because he may not be there for the agenda.
Okay.
When we get to that item. It's under the OCC development.
Yeah. We can move it forward if that's helpful. Whatever. Yeah. Anyway.
Not here.
Oh, okay.
What we were discussing. Agenda.
Yeah, whether this, because Tommy may not be here the whole time, then whether we should
Move it up.
Yeah. So yeah, we can move it up.
We good to go?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Thursday, August 17th, 2023 meeting of the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission. Call this meeting to order at this time. Mike Town,
Here.
Ronald Ibarra,
Here.
Martha Tornay,
Here.
Ted Sakai. Are you online, Ted?
No, he can't
He
attend.
can't make it.
Okay. So 4 out of the 5 commissioners are present at this time. Let's all take a look as we start this meeting to look at the agenda from the July 20th, 23
Or look at the minutes.
Sorry. And if you have any questions, let us know. If not, I'll take a motion.
I have no comments about the minutes. That's fine. So I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the minutes for the Thursday, July 20th, 2023 Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission be accepted as written. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say same. Minutes passed. Next item on the agenda will be opened up for public testimony at this time. Please indicate with a digital hand or a human hand. Thank you, Kat. You may go ahead.
Aloha, commissioners. Thank you so much for your service. Today, I would like to talk about the HCR 23 task force. It was really heartbreaking for CAP to see the list of bureaucrats as the majority of the task force and that the meetings are closed to the public. This is especially disappointing since HCSOC has been the model for community engagement in the state. It really shows that reentry, the community's feelings about reentry are not important to the state. Yet our role is vitally important since parole is the gateway to the community. So we believe this is really short-sighted, especially in light of the state talking about equity. For years, CAP has been talking about parole as the gateway to the community for people who finish their sentences. The community is vitally important in this particular aspect of, justice. So we're really, really disappointed in that. And in our testimony, we asked the task force to include people who experienced parole and are now successfully in the community. So we don't understand why this is a very closed task force, why we have been blocked out. I included some information from a 2019, Pew report, and Hawaii received the grade of C+, which actually was one of the highest grades, but still we have a long way to go to provide successful reentry processes for people to actually smoothly transition from institutional life to the community. So we respectfully ask the Commission, as the lead entity of this task force, to allow the community to at least sit in on the meetings, even if we can't speak, and to allow us to submit written comments to the task force so that our thoughts and our understanding and experiences with parole can actually inform the task force. If the state truly believes in equity, the community's role in reentry would be acknowledged and respected. Closed meetings are the opposite of that. Thank you so much for this time to testify.
Thank you, Kat. Appreciate your words.
Can I respond in part?
We're going to talk about it in your agenda if you want to.
Well, I just want to clarify what the task force is about. Kat, the task force, if you read it, first of all, it is the legislature that created the members of the task force, not the commission. And also the task force is very specific to the setting of the minimum part of it. It is not the whole parole process.
Yes, I understand that.
You know, so I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but again, that's not the purpose of the task force. And if we keep on expanding, I don't think we can expand beyond what the resolution says. That's what we should be doing. But if we try to expand it, we'll never get done in time.
I'm not talking about expanding it. I understand that the legislature made that, but we could at least sit in on the meetings and hear what goes on, because the setting of minimums is really vital. There are a lot of people who are in for parole violations. So this is very important to the community.
But again, in setting of minimums, parole violations is not what's going to be studied by the task force.
But that's what's going on.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But as part of our job in reentry and stuff like that, that's what we got to focus on, the things like parole violations, how long people go back in, why they go back in, and how long they go back in, things like that. So it's not that we're going to want to ignore those things. I just don't think this is the proper forum for it.
Thank you.
George, I'm not sure how many people are here, so I'm not. Oh, I see one hand. Carrie Ann, go ahead.
Aloha and good morning. Carrie Ann Shirota on behalf of the ACLU of Hawaii. I want to echo some of the concerns expressed by Kat Brady from Community Alliance on Prisons. Our position is that this is a task force that is studying the issue of minimum sentence, which is the front end of the parole system, and that even though I haven't done an in-depth study, if you look at some of the offenses and you compared it to some years ago and to currently, it seems to be that they're setting higher and longer, lengthier minimum sentences, which then impacts parole, which then impacts a whole host of other issues, not to mention the impact on families impacted by incarceration. Our concern, again, is that there's this task force group. While we appreciate that there will be some opportunities for the community to weigh in, we thank you for that. But I think it's critically important that the task force meetings are open to the public, even if the public may not comment. As this commission oversight body has moved forward, it's critically important to have transparency and accountability. And one way to do that is to ensure that there are community members present, particularly when there are task force created that are entirely staffed mostly by governmental actors rather than community members and advocates. And this is something that should be done across the board. This is happening. Criticisms of the governor's emergency proclamation committees, the task force working barriers group. I'm sorry if I'm getting the name incorrect. But again, this just goes to transparency and accountability, and the public should be at the table, even if we're around the table and listening in. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Carrie Ann. Just if you see anything else, George, I just need to know. Okay. All right. Because I don't think everybody's on my one Zoom, right? Did you have something you want to say, Mike?
Yeah, I had a little bit of a footnote, as I often do. What Kat and Carrie Ann say is so true. If from my perspective, having been both a judge and on the parole board, if the parole board sets a minimum, it has to be reconsidered periodically, very transparently, with a due process hearing. I don't know how it's done now. I'm sure they're doing it better, but we just look at a piece of paper at the end of the day and decide whether it's too draconian. And I think that's wrong, because you can go back to court and ask the judge to reduce a minimum because it's in the statute. So I agree very much with Carrie Ann and Kat that we need to get the reality of what these minimums are and how, and if they are too high, what we do about it. Do they make them go away, or do we get to address them in a fair way? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Seeing no other further hands, I'm just going to move forward to.
I have a question. Can we move up the OCCC to the top of the agenda? Because I understand Tommy has other meetings he has to attend.
Tommy, are you here?
Maybe so. You want to move our wildfires too?
Yeah.
Tommy?
He's muted.
He's here.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm just asking Tommy that we move up.
Go ahead and move up items 7 and 8 to discuss at this time while we have Tommy here at the meeting.
I don't have a copy of the agenda. I asked my secretary to find it, but go ahead and shoot, because I do have another meeting to go to.
Yeah.
And I apologize, but thanks for moving things up. I appreciate it.
Item 7 is the new OCCC discussion.
Okay. You want to know where we are with that?
Yes.
Yes, go
Okay,
ahead.
so
Tommy, I also want to add comments about the meeting that I attended with you guys.
okay, you want to go first then?
No, you go first, and then I'll just, because I want the group to select which committee we should be on, subcommittee.
Okay. So we requested, as you guys know, last year we requested $25 million for OCCC, 15 million this year, 10 million for next year. The legislature didn't give us any money for this coming fiscal year. This fiscal year began 1 July, but we did get the $10 million for next year. I have since asked the governor for release of $7 million from the funds he has so that we can keep the project going and continue on with the planning and design. I haven't heard back from the governor's office yet. It went through budget and finance. It did go from budget and finance to the governor's office, but then with everything going on, I'm sure he hadn't had time to get to the request for the $7 million. We do have the $10 million in the budget next year, and I think we had about 1.5 million left over from the previous year that we're using now. But before we break ground on any type of facility, regardless of the size or height, the Department of Agriculture needs to have their project move forward because they need to move the animal quarantine site to a different location on the current piece of land that they're on. They would have to move first. So I did have a meeting with the governor and with the Department of Agriculture and with Budget and Finance about that very same issue. So I believe they will be coming in this year for a request for $5 million for the planning and design and to move their animal quarantine site a little bit to the right, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the map in front of me. So that's where we are. Any drawings you see of the facility are just conceptual at this point. We haven't determined on any size or shape of the facility yet. We are trying to coordinate, as I see in the Oversight Commissioner's report, with several entities to have an outreach effort to the community so we can do even more outreach than we've been doing. That is scheduled to take place for October 10th and 11th. Looks like it will be at the YMCA. So we have the school architecture working to do that. Christian brought in, I believe, the Council of State Governments and some other folks to assist in that effort. So, I mean, that's where we are now. We haven't gone that far, but we do have this outreach effort on October 11th and 12th. We did put in a request for funding to the governor. We haven't heard back yet, but BNF supported that request. We do have the $10 million beginning 1 July next year. So that's where we are on OCCC. We already have the permissions, if you will, for lack of a better term, for water and sewer from the Board of Water Supply. The EIS and everything is already done.
Okay, the department convened a meeting that were primarily department heads on July 19th, and they invited the commission to participate in that meeting. And this was on the development of OCCC. So we were provided with an update from DAGS. Tommy, has that update been put on your website yet?
I can double check. If it's not, I'll get it posted.
Okay, so other people can review that. And that's more or less what the meeting primarily and concerned that. After the meeting, Tommy asked if people would join some sub-working groups. He wants to consider that. And these included medical and mental health, ACO staff counts, programs and staffing, cultural programs, initial intake assessment and evaluation, reentry services, including connectivity to DOH and DHS, reentry housing services, and then a catch-all. And so I would like to recommend to the commission that we add entry ones at this point. And I would hope, Tommy, in these sub-working groups that we can start inviting other people besides just the people who are at that meeting. And I'm talking about community members. So you get
meetings, Martha?
To the sub-working group meetings.
Okay, all right. We can talk more about that, okay?
You know, because there are lots of people who work in mental health in the state of Hawaii that can have very valuable things to offer in those areas. You know, we have many people I think that help. So I ask that you consider that. Okay. And if the commission will, I can send this out to the commission. These are the committee or sub-working groups, but I do recommend that we participate in the 2 reentry ones. So we'll make a decision we'll make it by email a little bit later because Ted is not here with us today.
Okay, that was item number 7.
Yeah.
Go to item number 8. Tommy, I know it's a concern for the whole state right now and everything that's happening and the tragedy that's going on in Maui. We just wanted to hear an update if you have any on any effect on the public safety's work on Maui, particularly with the Maui Community Correctional Center
and the wildfires.
Okay, so 3 things. We had one staff member lose his home and his parents' home. We had one emergency higher corrections officer lose 4 members of his family. So far, that's all we know about. We've been talking to the staff. We put mental health folks Leanne put mental health folks in the staff to talk to the inmates and to talk to our staff there. I went over to, I cut a mainland trip short. I came back last Friday night. I was in Maui Saturday morning. I was able to tour the devastation, but also go to the facility and talk to the staff. And so with respect to the facility, the folks are showing up to work. We have 6 weeks of food supply. There were some concern about air quality issues, so I talked to our medical staff. We identified folks who may have respiratory issues, and so those folks who were in the dormitories that didn't have air conditioning, we moved into the dormitories with air conditioning. DOT initially canceled a medical transport flight for us, but we spoke to them. They weren't aware it was a medical transport for folks who needed to come here for a procedure. But that flight did take place this morning to bring about 6 inmates here for different types of procedures. And so far, the facilities have all the PPE they need should the air quality become an issue. They have the food supplies they need. I talked to the medical staff. They're going to front order the medications to make sure that if we do have to move some of the inmates out, that we're bringing the medication with them so that they have a supply of medication here. While we order more back order from our pharmacy contract. So far, we haven't had any issue with the air quality to the point where we needed to do anything. It's just that in touring Lahaina, it is really devastated. About 80% of the structures are gone. And it's really bad. And so we have deployed deputy sheriffs there for 30 days at a time. The next rotation, it's in 6-day stints. So the first 6-day stint is up this Sunday. We'll be sending a crew up on Sunday morning. They'll in brief with the crew that leaves in the afternoon. They'll stay there for 6 days. We've made sure that we've been able to drop porta potties, tents, and water where they are. They have the PPE they need. They're very long shifts out there, 12-hour shifts. They're National Guard on site as well, assisting with not just recovery, but assisting with some traffic control, and some of the areas are still sealed off. And that's where we're augmenting the, we sent up 12 sheriffs. We're augmenting Maui PD. We'll be setting up another 12 as soon as we get that together for the second 30-day package. Our PIO will probably go up and do overnights. So the PIOs, the public information officers are doing 12-hour shifts to make sure we get information out to the public as soon as possible as it occurs. And this will be a long-term operation to recover, and I mean years. The unions have stepped up. UPW had a big fundraiser on the Big Island and are shipping over. My understanding is somewhere between 100 and 150 pallets of goods. I think the challenge for Maui would be the logistics of trying to get all those things into staging areas, sort them out, and get them out to the public as soon as possible. So they're having some issues there. General Horan activated 250 National Guard. He's calling up more to help out with the logistics and to help out with the search and to help out with the road security. We want to try to prevent looting and try to prevent folks from going to areas that haven't been swept yet, because as the governor mentioned, there are a number of bodies, charred bodies there, and a lot of them unrecognizable. And so we don't want people walking on desecrating the dead, and we don't want them in areas where they shouldn't be. And so far, that's where we are. The deputy director for law enforcement and the director will be going up tomorrow, and I'll go back up again next week to talk to. I did get a chance to meet Saturday with the mayor's managing director and his staff, and I got a chance to meet with the police chief for a little bit. So they're grateful for the help, but the help will need to continue to come for some time, to be honest with you. And that's all I have.
Has there been attempts, Tommy, for to identify the residents in Maui CCC that were from Lahaina and contacting them or letting them know? Yes,
and we've identified inmates with and detainees with family members that are affected. That's an ongoing process because some of them might not know they have relatives in those particular areas. So what Leanne has done, which is pretty good, the warden, Leanne Indo, if we've been allowing liberal telephone time, we try to get the visits done, but the telephone time seems to really help out. We did have psychosocial workers and mental health folks talk to the inmates in the facility, and they're still in the facility now, going through every day. If we receive information about a family member of an inmate that may have perished or may be harmed, then we're pulling that person to the side, trying to have the mental health person there to talk to them and try to give them as much telephone contact as they can. Unfortunately, we don't have the resources to get people out to go to funerals at this point, and I don't think any are scheduled yet, but we'll try our best to make sure that whatever we can do, we will do for them.
I got something.
Okay, Mike.
Tommy, thank you. Good report. Mike, did you stop by the jail? The jail's part of the court, or the cell block part of the courthouse, or not? In Lahaina?
No, it's separate from there. So the court does have a small lockup, if you will, cell block, but no, the jail is in Wailuku side. This is Lahaina, and so the only thing we were worried about initially was any type of air quality issues for folks with respiratory issues. All of our supplies, with the exception of our trash, all of our supplies come from the Wailuku side. So I check with our food service and pharmacy to make sure that we kind of not double up on the orders, but increase the frequency of our orders so we have reserves. We already have 5 weeks of food. We have the medications. We will have a problem within the next 30 days or so if we're unable to get to the dump. But we will work with the National Guard and HIEMA, who's taking the lead on how do we deal with the refuge.
Thank you. I need to re-ask the question in a way that at least I understand. There is a jail in Lahaina, correct? Not a jail, excuse me, a court. And that court has...
We don't operate anything. We don't operate any facility in Lahaina.
Let me re-ask my question. Is there a court in Lahaina?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know. There could have been, but my primary concern wasn't the courts. It was the facility, our staff, and then the inmates. So if the judiciary has a facility there, I can find out. That's something the commission wants to know.
That'd be good to know if they're held there, they go down to Wailuku. Second thing is the president and his wife are coming, Dr. Biden, Monday. And are we looked into that at all? Public safety, or is that you're not part of that?
Well, we are with respect to providing assistance to the Secret Service. And if the mayor asks us to be present for any type of EEOC briefing, we'll be there. But to be perfectly frank, I think Maui has their hands full. So we're providing support as much as possible. We're having daily meetings with HIEMA, with FEMA, and also with the separate meetings or statewide meetings with just statewide actors. So we have 3 meetings a day, one with FEMA, one with statewide actors, one with HIEMA. And so we're trying to stay out of their way as much as possible. And we just told them, whatever we have, if you need it and we have it, we'll get it to you.
Thank you. So you have met and can work with collegially Mayor Bisson. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Mike, I can't hear you.
Have you met and can you work collegially with Mayor Bisson?
Oh, yeah. He was a first deputy here for the prosecutor, and he was a public safety director for about a year. And then he became a judge and then retired. Yeah, so I know Rick and his sister Tony well.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. Commissioners, any more questions on for Tom? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you, Tommy. Appreciate your time,
thank you.
Your efforts, and if we have any help, you let us know.
I will. I appreciate that. Thank you.
We're going to jump up now, ladies and commissioners, for the monthly oversight coordinators report.
All right. Good morning, everyone. We have our monthly report. It's available on the website. And George, can you please put it in the chat just so people can follow along? Some of the areas in the monthly report I'm going to skip over since they're either covered just now or they might be covered later in the agenda. I do have an in-custody death to announce. On July 27, 2023, a person in custody at Halava, male, 84 years old, was pronounced deceased at a nearby hospital due to terminal illness. Although this death was considered to be from natural causes, both Honolulu Police Department and the Department of Public Safety's Internal Affairs have been notified and will conduct investigations. In addition to that, under facility tours, you'll notice that there's an incredible increase of reentry focus here. That is many thanks to our staff, Kara Campani. She's visited Women in Need, The First Life After Prison, Residential Youth Services and Empowerment, Fernhurst, and
Kina Eha.
Thank you, Kina Eha. We're gathering a lot of information to get a better understanding of the reentry services that are offered here in Hawaii, in addition to things that are or are not happening in reentry. And so Kara right now is doing a lot of informational gathering, and then in the near future, she'll put together a report for the commissioners to kind of take a look at and decide future steps from there. In addition, Kara did attend a sequential intercept model mapping workshop. This was a great workshop. It was a 2-day workshop where they talked about this particular model that establishes statewide priorities and really focuses in on justice-involved women. This particular one focused on women. And so Kara's going to use a lot of that SIM modeling for our future work in reentry. Mark and I attended the National Association on Sentencing Commission's 2023 conference in Lake Tahoe. This was a very interesting conference, a lot of information overload. We attended this as it was recommended by us, to us to attend by the Council of State Governments in relation to HCR 23 Task Force. So we just want to learn as much as we could about what other states are doing, data practices, et cetera, et cetera. And I did include information about both of those conferences at the end of the report here. The Justice Involved Homeless International Intergovernmental Collaboration. So Going Home Hawaii has, of course, taken the initiative to develop a strategy to lead up to a reentry and restoration summit. It's finally here. It's going to be happening next week. GHH is expecting over 250 community partners to attend. The commission will be there. I will be speaking in the community safety breakout room. So we're really looking forward to it. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, definitely check it out. I'm going to skip over the House concurrent resolution, as that will be the next topic on the agenda. But I did want to talk about, so previously in the monthly oversight coordinator reports, this was referred to as a legislative symposium. We have finally come up with an official name. It's called Breaking Cycles, Re-envisioning a Health, Housing, and Corrections Continuum. So this is a collaborative approach by the Commission, the Correctional Reform Working Group, the University of Hawaii School of Architecture, and the Department of Public Safety. We're bringing national and worldwide experts to Hawaii. This symposium is scheduled for October 10th and 11th. And will be held at the YWCA. As soon as we have more information, we will definitely post out about this. But this is the event that Amend will be coming to and attending. And so we're really excited about that because they will also be doing a lot of workshops with Department of Public Safety staff and Department of Public Safety leadership. And so we're very, very thankful to have them on board. Other than that, we know that there was a concern about access to courts at HCCC. I have been working directly with Chief Justice's staff on this, and I'm learning a lot of information that has helped to attempt to find a solution here. I think a lot of it is unfortunately being put on some of the public defenders, and I know that they're overworked, but we're trying to come up with some collaborative efforts, and I will be also contacting Commissioner Ronnie Barra to help me out with that as well. Expenses, we did not spend any money as our expenses actually were not released yet this past month. So
You got paid though, didn't you?
yes.
Yes, so at least they covered
Yes,
salary.
staff get paid. Yes. Should that be included in the report? Staff pay?
Well, you just noted
Oh, okay.
that the money was forwarded by the AG.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, so we're good on that. Other than that, we have general office information and our next. I did want to make a quick note. This isn't in the report, but our office is now really focusing on a staff report. Kara and I have talked to the chair about this. We're pretty excited about it. We're looking at putting together a very large staff survey to get a better understanding as to either why staff are not coming to work, but also the staffing crisis that's going on in general. And so there will be more information about that as well. But I just wanted to let the commission know that that is our next #1 priority. And we're excited to collaborate and learn more about how we can better help staff and staff wellness. Other than that, that is my report.
Any questions, commissioners?
I don't have a question report, but I do ask, can you please provide it to us at least 48 hours before the meeting? Because I don't get time. I was out last night. I didn't get time to review it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, moving forward, my goal is to get it to you the Monday before the meeting.
Okay.
Apologies for that.
Ron, you good?
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Okay. With the HCR 23.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to item number 6 at this time on the agenda. Commissioners, as you know, the past legislative session, HCR 23 was passed. Basically 3 items. I'm going to read off to you in terms of the resolution in general. Study whether parole system models utilized by other states might be suited for Hawaii. 2, examine and compare the minimum sentences issued by the Hawaii Paroling Authority and the courts to determine whether there are significant differences. And 3, recommend whether the administration of justice may be better served by removing the responsibility of setting minimum sentences from the Hawaiian Paroling Authority, thereby enabling it to focus on determining and assisting prisoners' fitness for parole and supervision of parolees. These are 3 of the main mandates that come out of the resolution in regards to why we are gathering. So this has put additional duties to the staff. One is trying to bring together all the individuals and agencies that are listed on the resolution for a one-time meeting, well, for the first meeting in September. Yeah, so that has been difficult at the best, and we're still shy about 2 or 3 individuals that are named in the resolution. 3 is really organizing our thoughts on sentencing and learning as much as we can so that we can determine how to guide the meetings and how to chair the meetings and what direction are we going in order to have the discussions to fulfill those 3 mandates. We all know that we can go off on tangents, and we want to make sure that we're specifically focused on what the resolution is calling for at this time. So we haven't really looked other than the members of the task force, how we're going to present the material, our partnership with Council of State Governments, who's our experts at this time. So hence me and Christian going to this conference to glean what information we can and to really understand how big a task that we have in front of us. The requirement is to submit a report or a list of recommendation by the legislative session of 2025. 24.
Isn't it like in October or something? It's earlier than the beginning of the session.
Okay.
Every year.
By the end, yeah. So we have 1 year. Yeah. And that's kind of where we are right now. We have just had our first meeting with, not our first meeting, but we did have a meeting with the State Council of State Governments the other day to start putting together that first meeting. I appreciate the comments that were given today by the public and by the commissioners in terms of community involvement. One of the things that we did do is that the State Council, I don't know why I say State Council, Council of State Governments, CSG, we will, through the commission, we'll be supporting a community input. So a lot of the information that we be presenting at the first meeting will be presented to the community. And I believe that we've also created on our website a section for just HCR 23. So whatever information that is being produced or given to the meetings will be presented there, as well as the minutes. Community at this particular point in time can keep track of what's going on. But we look forward to this community event that we're going to have prior to the first meeting. I believe that the commission will always be a source for the public to talk about. This will be a regular agenda item on our monthly meetings. But we will continue to look at the public's participation in this task force meetings as we move forward. Anything else?
I just want to note real quick that the community input on sentencing reform is scheduled for Monday, September 11th. This is the day before the first meeting. It's from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the University of Hawaii. Information about this is in the Oversight Coordinator Report. In addition to that, it's on our website under the HCR 23 tab. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Right now, we don't have a Zoom option for this. We thought it'd be best served in person. However, if Neighbor Island folks or if people, for whatever reason, can't, like, please reach out to me and we'll do the best to see what we can do here.
Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, thank you. So throughout my public service career, I've always advocated greater participation. And I've noticed ever since I started as a prosecutor, on the Big Island and ending up as a retired chief judge in the Big Island, I've always noticed that the neighbor islands are sort of shortchanged in participation. And that's one of the reasons also that I've volunteered on statewide committees, being able to speak on behalf of the neighbor island. So having said that, I agree with Kat and Carrie Ann that this is a mission that was given to us by the state legislature, and that the broadest outreach should be considered. When we talk about community input on sentencing reform, the question is, which community? Honolulu community, state community, neighbor island community, or the whole community in the state of Hawaii? And that's what I look at. Looking at the parole board composition, which I wanted to be on the parole board, but I found out through the statute that I had to pay my own fare coming down to work on the parole board. And I noticed there was no neighbor island board members. And people from neighbor islands are incarcerated. So basically, the people who are incarcerated from the neighbor islands do not get, I call it, representation. There's different community of interest between the islands. We know that. In my career as a judge, whenever I have a case that involves a Honolulu lawyer, they differ from the neighbor island lawyers. The community differs in the sense of economics. Honolulu has a higher pay scale than the rural communities in Maui, Big Island, Kauai. And so people have different expectations. So to that extent, I would hope that this task force would open up and get public meetings, inviting neighbor island personal input if they want to attend. Also, a good idea, like Kristen said, Zoom to allow a lot of participation by the neighbor islands. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
And I want to echo those comments. I believe it also should be open, and that this meeting on September 11th should be via Zoom, so everybody can participate.
Here.
And not in person at all, like just
No, in person too.
Okay, so hybrid.
Yeah, hybrid. I don't want to lock anybody out. We cannot change the makeup of the commission itself. That is set by the resolution, but we certainly can invite people to attend and participate through testimony and things like that can be considered by this group.
Mike, anything?
No, I agree.
I think I'm a little bit hesitant because I just, trying to figure out. This is kind of new for me. I've been on the task force, trauma-informed care. Trauma-informed care task force was previously chaired by Tia Hartsock. Had selected individuals on the task force, and it was open to the public, but the public didn't have.
They weren't members.
We weren't part of they could listen though. So that's what I'm thinking of as the only other task force that I'm familiar with that has public at the meetings. And I don't know if there's any rules on how that's done, but I'm hearing the commission wanting it open. It's just a matter of how do we define the open, and that doesn't have to be decided now.
Yeah, and as I listened to both Kat and Carrie Ann, they were saying they understand why it may not be they could be members of it, but they can submit testimony. They can participate in that way. I don't expect these very professional people to be interrupting the work of the commission as you're going forward with your meetings. But they certainly want to hear what's going on and be allowed to make comments about it.
Yeah, the intention was to have a vote from all the task force members so that it wasn't, when Mark and I had talked about it, we were hesitant to come off as making final decisions for a full task force that may have very different opinions. So we wanted to hear from members for the first meeting.
I think most of the people that are being asked to participate have been involved in a lot of public meetings. So, and it is the commission that is convening this. So I think the commission does have the power to make some decisions about this.
Okay. Like I just said, I just need to move. We need to move correctly. And without me having any of the information in front of me, I don't want to make a definitive answer to that. But I'm also leaning in the direction of the other commissioners on the table. I just need to know how to articulate that the right way and not say something that may not be right at this particular point in time.
Yeah,
We had so much issues with the Sunshine Law. I don't want to have issues with, even though we don't, the Sunshine Law does not apply to task force. Yeah, but let's look at what I can find in terms of making sure that I'm along the Office of Information
practices.
Oh, right.
But again, even if the law may not require it, we are committed to transparency. We've made that very clear from the beginning. We're committed to transparency.
But I just want to make the right decision. Yeah, and not have anything come back to us on that. So we'll whatever decision will be made will be posted on our website in terms of once we find out the right way to articulate it. And
I don't think you're going to find it in the right way. I think it's up to us.
Yeah, well, I trust. I've done things that was up to me, and I got in trouble for it. So that's where my hesitation comes from, ladies and gentlemen, is making sure we're doing it right. But I agree in theory with everybody's saying about keeping it open to the public. So just give me another week to figure it out, and then it'll be posted on our website.
Is there anything else from your report? Or we finished that, yeah?
Yeah. So with nothing else to discuss at this time, I'll open it up to the public. Once again, if you have any comments you may have on today's meeting or what has been heard.
Chair Mark, I had something from Bob Merce who couldn't make it.
Okay.
I spoke briefly with Bob Merce. He informed me that Van Kahumoku, I hope I'm getting this right, was granted parole effective September 7th.
Good.
And that's been a long time in the making. So I'll just let that be known. I appreciate what public safety and parole and everybody has done. Secondly, Bob told me there are people at Halava who are pretty far down the dementia bell curve and nothing's being done. So I'll leave that to Bob to discuss that, but we need to have some kind of proactive action. Those folks should not be sitting in Halava. They should go somewhere where they're cared for in a different kind of capacity there.
Are you talking like dementia and stuff like that?
That's what I just said, yeah, dementia. And some of it's severe.
Yeah.
I don't know how we check that. It's really the burden. I mean, the initiative should be on public safety and the warden. People have got to be proactive, but I just want that known. Thank you.
Okay. Any final comments from the public?
Pat and Chaz both have their hands up.
Go ahead,
Aloha.
Kat.
Aloha. I just wanted to comment on the wildfires and the tragedy in Lahaina. I cannot imagine the terror that people incarcerated felt when Maui was burning and they were worried about their families. So I sure hope there is intensive mental health treatment, not just for the people who had families in Lahaina, but this has been a tragedy that has actually impacted the entire state. So I hope that mental health treatment for people inside who could not get out is intensified and really helpful to the people inside. I just cannot imagine the fear that they felt. So let's never forget the people who can't get out. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. Hi, Chaz. You're on mute.
Chaz, you're on mute. Chaz, you are on mute. Unmute.
Thank you I was purposely muting myself so I could retain all the gasps and things that were happening over here on this end. But Commissioner Patterson and Chair Patterson and commissioners, I'm here to address what I believe to be a problem that we have within the transitional period that we're in right now, converting from being Department of Public Safety to actually adding rehabilitation to our name, being the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. I do believe that this is an important change for the entire system, and I'm hoping that those responsible would take it seriously. This is to address what I consider to be an issue that goes in the opposite direction, and that is the issuance of an RFP, which has been issued on June 13th of this year for Huikahi reentry planning circles. And this RFP was addressed by myself in partnership with Lauren Walker's organization, which has invented and created and run the Huikahi circles. When we applied for this RFP, we felt it was one of the most important ones that would demonstrate the transition that public safety is making from being the department that it was to the department that recognizes rehabilitation. To my knowledge, this particular RFP, which was for $180,000 over 1 year to provide those reentry planning circles, was the first and only money that's been issued by this administration for the pure purpose of rehabilitation. I could be incorrect about that, but I bird dogged these things, and that was my first opportunity to have an opportunity to actually apply for this money. Lauren's organization and mine, WorkNet, applied for these funds together. And what has happened in the meantime is that the RFP that we submitted was rejected. And normally a rejection means that the agency has not observed the protocols or the rules or regulations surrounding an RFP. Normally this rejection happens within 24 or 48 hours of the submission, because if you breach something, it doesn't take an examination of the RFP to determine that. And normally RFPs are returned without examination if that should occur. In this particular case, 3.5 weeks passed before the rejection was notified to us of what had happened. And we feel that this indicates it wasn't a rejection because 3.5 weeks, it doesn't take 3.5 weeks to determine that. What's happened in the meantime, fortunately, I have been in contact with the commission staff. They have been wonderful about considering this issue, giving me feedback and helping me understand what is happening in this period. What I've discovered is, for one thing, there is a gap in the law, which does not allow my organization to question this particular decision. We have no appeal rights. We have no way to actually affecting what happened with this decision. We just must accept it. We do intend to address this gap in the law, because we don't think it should happen again to any agency that's sincerely trying to assist our incarcerated population. In the meantime, I have asked several others about their opinion about why the actual rejection was made. No one that I've spoken to, and myself included, understands why this rejection happened. We were rejected because we subcontracted with Lauren Walker's organization to provide these services, which we felt was required because Huikahi circles, which is her invention, was mentioned as the model in the law that funded this particular operation. When we were told that the rejection was because we subcontracted with the responsible and expert person in our state in doing this, that was the reason it was rejected, is because we subcontracted. I did submit an explanation of this to your staff. I shared with them the letter that I received on the rejection, and I shared with them the response that I made for this, which was to actually address the base reason and to discover why this happened. It was a mystery to me why it happened. So I did address this back to public safety, where I sent a letter to their Officer Mark Yamamoto to describe this. And after that, I did have a conversation with Director Johnson, and I asked him explicitly what the reason might be for this. He did respond to me that he is going to investigate this. That was just before he left for his trip for the mainland. And of course, we all know the tragedy that happened on Maui, which everyone's attention has rightly been turned to in this time of grief. So I am addressing this to the commission. I believe this does cross over into the commission's purview, and I'm submitting this to find out if there is any remedy that can be seen for this in the current situation without without having a new law to actually address the situation. And when I talked with our Director Johnson, about this, I emphasized the fact that I realize that we have no legal standing to actually address this, but we do have an obligation. We have a moral and an ethical obligation to see that the people that we were to serve under this are served. We did emphasize that we are insisting that people who are maxing out from their term be given the first right of refusal for these services, because to my knowledge, we don't have a plan for these individuals, which I think is tragic. They have the highest rate of recidivism of any cohort of anyone that we have served in public safety. And we presented a solution, not some plan or a study or a pilot. We presented a solution to this by having these individuals first go through Huikahi reentry planning circles, which they don't have an exit plan for or have not been addressed by public safety. And we are also improving those circles by providing a community component where we see through WorkNet and WorkNet's long services in this area of reentry that these people also have a community contact in which to actually employ and implement a plan that's made for them. I will rest this in your hands, and thank you so much for allowing me to come and address you today.
I got some.
Any comments? Go ahead, Mark.
What should I call you, Mr. Williamson? Chaz?
Chaz.
Hmm?
Chaz.
Chaz.
Yes, I got unmuted there.
Can I call you Chaz?
Of course, that's me. Thank you, Judge Down.
Anytime. Just don't call me late for dinner. But Chaz, if you're in a hospital or a mental institution, or if you're leaving a school, any place where there's a fiduciary relationship, you're supposed to have a discharge plan, particularly like, let's say, a hospital. I don't think jail or prison should be any different. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely right. And we think that process should begin at the time the person re-enters the institution, not at the time 5 minutes before they leave.
I totally, it just started from the get-go. And that helps to rehabilitate people. It helps to fold them into the community. It worries me that we're committing some kind of malpractice by not doing it, and look at the best practices nationally and look at the best evidence. So I encourage you, and Lauren Walker has and will continue, I hope, to work miracles. So I support you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chaz, for the comments. We'll get back to you. Okay?
Thank you.
Is there any other hands?
Yeah, we have a hand in Hilo.
Go ahead. Identify yourself, please.
My name is Jess Haney. I'm with Ohana Ho'opakele, other members next to me, and we'll all be speaking today. Cool. So thank you for having this meeting, and I have a few comments related to the wildfires and also some of your report back from last month or previous month that you mentioned last month. So I recall in the July 2023 meeting and tour report back
the commission noticed that there was a lack of emergency preparedness plans, visible maps, known protocol, and even a padlocked back door. And I believe this was at MCC because that was the facility which you had toured that month. Am I correct? I'm seeing one nod.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So Ted Sakai said that the consequences of these hazards could be devastating. And there's now been a devastating tragedy on Maui, and the imminent risk or imminent death, which was noted, is now a very present risk. And so I'm really wondering, what will the commission be doing immediately to protect the well-being of people at MCC and all other jails and prisons around emergency preparedness protocol and access? As someone earlier mentioned, these are people who don't have the freedom of choice or movement, and they're literally in the state's hands. So that's a question for Tommy Johnson, and also, one for you all. I appreciate your thorough report packs. And to that end, I would want to see if possible in your next tours that you're doing, can you look at the AINA around the jails and prisons that you're touring? What's that emergency preparedness? Is there cane grass? Are there fire barriers? What does the environment look like, and how are the access roads? Because this is part of understanding how safe people are inside. And then long term, we urge you to act on the solutions that can reduce crowding and minimize the number of people inside exposed to these risks. I know that this is your Kuleana, this is part of your strategic plan. And so I just want to identify a couple of things that are directly within our power to reduce the number of people inside. This is the removing the mandatory minimums setting. Doing sweeping ways to get elders and people with chronic health conditions, like the elder who died last month, into a different facility. And also to support community-based solutions such as Pu'uhonua. So I'm going to share a little bit about Pu'uhonua, which was passed through Act 117 through the state legislature in recent years. So, and it was in the power. The Department of Public Safety is supposed to act on this. So that's why I bring it to you, is the Oversight Commission providing oversight for what they have not done, which has been negligent, I believe, to all of the islands of Hawaii, given what Pu'uhonua is. So the Pu'uhonua Act 117 plan is an alternate sentencing, reentry, and transitional facility for people who are imprisoned in their final year, or they could be diverted there instead of going to regular jail, which includes, as one of its main components, a community project eradicating invasive species. And this is a fire prevention and land management measure urgently needed in this time of our climate and our communities experiencing increased disasters because of ecosystem mismanagement. So I, urge you all to make this a priority for the commission. Invasive grasses and other shrubs can be fire hazards. The Pu'uhonua plan is one that could advance fire prevention efforts. If we had moved forward with this 10 years ago, if the Department of Public Safety had, there could be a Pu'uhonua on every island, and the thousands of people that are cycling through through the jails and prisons could have been put to work restoring the land so that it was less fire prone. So I just want to look at that 10-year gap. This is within our power and within our kuleana to actually do something which could help restore the land from these increased risks of wildfires, which happen on the Big Island quite frequently. On Tuesday last week, as I was driving and could not see the Mauna and could not see Haleakala in the distance, I thought it was a Big Island fire. Didn't know the scale of what was happening on Maui. So this is real, and we should have done it yesterday. We can do it today. And then last, just want to and I'll share some more notes. I can send this to the commission later, but just to remind us about the kapuna and making plans for emergency preparedness on all islands and doing everything possible to get people out. I think it's great that, the Maui facility figured out who has respiratory issues and is moving them to air conditioning. If they have the power to do that now, can we have the power to get people out if they're able to use their identification capacity to identify people before they're so chronically ill or before something happens that they cannot mobile themselves out of a facility should there be a fire? So we all might know this, but some 13% of prisoners in Hawaii are aged 55 and up, and nearly 5% of more than 1,000 people at Halava are disabled due to age, mobility, or cognitive issues. So what's our emergency preparedness plan, as well as the compassionate release efforts that we can put forward that is within our scope of power to get people out of crisis emergency situations before, quote, imminent death? So I'll leave it there. Thank you for, listening. I know this is hard information for us to sit with. It's sad. There's a lot of tragedy, but I do believe that we are in a position that we can actually redirect the ship. So hopefully there will not be another, but now we know and we should plan. So I'll pass it to Kaleha.
Okay. Aloha, mai. My name is Kaleha Kama'u, and I would just like to thank Christine for agreeing to meet with us next week. We look forward to that meeting, and we'll be discussing mainly about our request for the faith pod on the inside. And I'd just like to reach out to all the commissioners, and if you guys have any questions, if you guys can give them to her, that when she come, she can bring those concerns or whatever questions or anything, she can bring them to our meeting next week, Thursday. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Hey, Ron.
Good morning. My name is Ronald Fujiyoshi. I want to thank Hawaii Correctional Systems Oversight Commission, the coordinator, and maybe is the new staff there, Kara, to greet them. I've been learning about the formation of the Hawaiian Kingdom and learned that the first words in the 1840 Constitution were words from the Bible. God hath made of one blood all nations of men to dwell on earth in unity and blessedness. God has also bestowed certain nations, certain rights alike on all men and all chiefs and all people of all lands. Such progressive words for any government in 1840. Since there was no division between politics and religion, I would like to begin with a quote from Scripture. And this comes from 2 Samuel chapter 14, verse 14. But this is not what God desires. Rather, he devises ways so that a banished person does not remain banished from him. Can I repeat that? But this is not what God desires. Rather, he devises ways so that banished person does not remain banished from him. I think this scripture is appropriate for the Hawaii Correctional Systems Oversight Commission, whose goal is to transform Hawaii's correctional system from a punitive model to a rehabilitative and therapeutic model. This morning, I want to express words of appreciation. I want to thank Mr. Bob Merck for his role in championing compassionate release. For many, but especially for Mr. Van Keoki Kahumoku, who appeared before the Hawaii Paroling Authority this past Monday and was told it would be FAMM, Families Against Mandatory Minimum. They gave Hawaii a F grade for compassionate release, mainly because Pahau, who are close to dying, do not have the means to champion for their release. But the situation, with the help of this commission, can get better. I want to thank the Hawaii Correctional Systems Oversight Commission for asking for the name of Van Kahumoku. When Ricky Torres Pestana testified that many veterans returning from fighting for the U.S. military return with PTSD, which is one factor that lands them in prison. Asking for the name of Mr. Van Kahumoku emboldened 3 family members to testify before you at your hearing on Maui on May 18th, 2023. The case of Mr. Van Kahumoku is just one pahau among many. However, it has a relationship with issues being raised before this commission. First, Van made 73 years of age in January of this year. I testified previously about a Columbia University study that revealed that for Pahau 65 years and older, the recidivism rate is almost 0. One way to relieve the overcrowding condition in prison is to consider releasing older Pahau 65 years and older. Second, Van served 4 tours in Vietnam as a combat soldier in the U.S. Army. Judge Jaffrey Choi, himself a vet, was quoted in a Hawaii Tribune Herald newspaper article recognizing Van as having PTSD. I do not want to take away Van's personal crime in killing a person, but he was attempting to rescue his wife from drug addiction when a recognized drug dealer first fired his rifle at Van. Van, trained to kill by the U.S. Army, did what he was trained to do. He fired back. Third, Van was 50 years of age when he was convicted. The Hawaii Paroling Authority sentenced him to a minimum of 50 years before he could be paroled. That clearly was a death sentence, not the sentence rendered by the court. Right now, the procedures and powers of the Hawaii Paroling Authority are being evaluated. Hopefully, the task force assigned to evaluate the Hawaii Paroling Authority will learn from Van Kahumoku's case and the case of many others. Mahalo again for the opportunity to testify before you.
Mahalo kau.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ana Pakele. We look forward to hearing back from Christian after she visits with you folks. And thank you all for those comments that you've made this morning. Sorry. Information overload on a lot of things. But George, is there any other hands that you see? More right now.
Also, quick mention. I think you mentioned our meeting is on Thursday, but it's on Tuesday. So I just wanted to make sure that I have. Okay, good. Awesome. Thank you guys. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Those were a lot of good information that was provided by all of you. Just gave on the public testimonies that we will eventually follow up on our next meeting. But thank you folks for that, those words and reminding the commission of things that are happening and things that we should be following up on. I think just a few announcements. We learned prior to the meeting that WCCC is going through a COVID outbreak. We had planned to visit the women's facility after this meeting, but we are canceling it at this particular time as about 2/3 of the facility is in quarantine at this time. So we're going to wait to postpone it and then reschedule it later on in the year.
Do you want to shift all the schedules do you want to just move all the facility schedules back 1 month?
we're talking about whether we should rearrange when we're going to do facility visits. Why don't you just propose something and we can look at it?
Because every facility that has a date right now are expecting us on that date.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so we have to submit to OIP to get.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's a whole it's a
Process.
Well, we revamp the scheduling and let us know by email.
Okay.
Okay. That being said, our next meeting is scheduled for September 21st, Thursday. And what are you saying, Halava?
Yes.
And we'll be visiting Halava Correctional Facility on that day as well. So September 21st, 2023. So once again, our hearts and our aloha out to those of you who are here from Maui. I know Carrie Ann's from Maui. I hope your family's okay. And others who are on online, we just want to reach out and show our aloha for the people of Maui and for what they're going through, and give them all the support that we can. Thank you all for being here, and let's continue to work toward the efforts the commission has been assigned, and thank you for participating. Without further ado, thank you and have a great day. Mahalo.